Hi, this is Christopher Allen with ZebraZapps. We're going to be taking a look at a sample application here. A passenger is having an in-flight medical emergency. There are several steps around the aircraft that we need to complete, and order is important. So here in the sample application, there are several dots that you can mouse over, which open up a little panel here that have tasks that we can perform. When we mouse over the passenger here in one of the seats, we can choose to evaluate that passenger, ask the cabin if there's a doctor on board, or go and retrieve our medical kit. And clicking the Perform Task button here goes through and lets us know that those steps have been completed. When I hit the Finished button, I get some feedback. Here are the correct choices and space for additional feedback, and we can see that the steps were not done in the appropriate order. If we choose one of the tasks here that's a distractor, again, we get a different page saying landing the plane is a radical option. And here I'll go through and perform the task in the appropriate order. Click Finished, and I get a different page here that shows why I did all the steps in the appropriate order, and I've got all green. So we're going to jump out to the editor, and here I've got a fresh ZebraZapps editor, and we're just going to go ahead and sketch how this application was built, not worrying so much about the fancy open panels and graphics. And we just might start with a few checkboxes. The first thing I'll do is I'll even create the checkboxes in the order that we want our user to do each step, which is evaluate the passenger, ask if there's a doctor on board, and then go ahead and retrieve the medical kit. And checkboxes in this case are just going to serve as a placeholder so that we can use the answer table, and I'll show you how to create order. First, let's get our little distractor in here. And say go ahead and land the plane. I'm going to take a second here to rearrange our checkboxes as they were shown on the plane before, with our kit in the back and the distractor telling the pilot to land the plane up front. And maybe that's about as far as I'll take it. Let's go ahead and create an answer table by selecting the tool from the toolbox and then just clicking anywhere on the screen. If you've used some of our other tables before, like the truth table, many things will look familiar. What we're going to want to do is wire up the value of checked from our checkboxes into the answer table and into the logic rows. You can click on the gray space to relabel, just in case it's a little unclear which checkbox you've just wired up. So I'll say evaluate and doctor, and now add the kit on. Change its label. And of course, we're going to want to make sure to go ahead and wire up the distractor. This lesson is, of course, about order, but the first condition that we're going to create in column number 1 is we're going to go back to using check marks and X's to say whether or not the step has been completed, and specifically that the user has not done a step. And if you remember from other lessons, green cells mean that the condition that we've created in the column cell is true. So if I turn the table here to hide on run false, we can watch as each one of the steps is completed and the corresponding cell turns green. Column number 1 highlights when all of the cells have turned green in column number 1. And of course, choosing the distractor will make that last cell turn gray again, because we're looking to make sure that the user has not done that step, which is what the X means. In column number 2, we're going to go ahead and order it 1, 2, 3 from the top and choose an X at the very last for the distractor. Again, we don't want our user to do that. Let's go ahead and play it and see what happens. If I choose the right order, both column number 1 and column number 2 are going to turn all green. But the answer table works left to right, saying that the most correct cell is always on the left. So just by clicking and dragging, I can reorder the cells and the columns. And now when I go 1, 2, 3, again, column number 1 is going to highlight with the order 1, 2, 3 being the most important. I'm going to click and add another condition, and we'll have this before the check marks. Here we'll say that they evaluated the passenger first, they got the kit second, and then asked if there was a doctor on board. And again, you see both column 2 and 3 are all green, but column number 2 highlighted because it is to the left. With our 3 conditions created, now it's time to create some feedback. I'm going to create feedback inside an arena, and I'm going to show you a little trick. We'll place an arena in the lower right-hand corner, and I might even label my arena's message center feedback. And this is where we're going to display what steps the user has done and leave space for additional prompts. The text that you write in here, if you're following along, isn't too particularly important, so we might just kind of speed up this little section, but creating feedback and dynamic feedback per column and per essentially condition that you've created, 1, 2, 3, is the effect that we're trying to achieve here. And then we're going to use what page we are inside the arena to match up which condition inside the answer table our user has selected by doing each one of the steps. Now that I have feedback here on the first page of our arena, I might just select the steps and add a little fill color. In condition 1 in our answer table, the user has gotten all the steps correct. So we'll have all of our steps be highlighted green. And I'll just do a little bit of last minute fix up here, make sure that our alignment looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an Alt plus on the arena, which gives me a duplicate page with all the text still in it. And here in this case, condition number 2, if you can see above, steps 2 and 3 have been flipped. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the text, move the text up and down. So they went through and they evaluated the passenger, then they retrieved the kit, and then asked if there was a doctor on board. Now I'm going to add another column or another page to match up with column number 3. And in this case, we'll go ahead and just say more feedback. And one more time, because we'll have a few more conditions maybe. Here's if they chose the distractor. Now that we have 4 pages inside in our arena, we're going to need to create a another column. So let's zoom out. You can see if you use the arena controller, you can flip through each one of the different conditions. Column number 1 is going to match up with page number 1. And again, we're going to add one more column, which is if they did choose the distractor. And I'm not really going to care whether or not they chose any of the other options, so we won't even bother putting in a number or a check. The green cells, of course, say that they match. And now what we can do is we can match up the column number with the page of the arena. You can also, of course, use value rows, just like in the truth table. You can also turn on tween, so you can animate, and you could turn out outs and have things trigger when each one of the column conditions has been met. But let's go ahead and open up the message center for the arena. And what we really want to do is tie the current page to the column number. And we've, of course, set up our messages on page 1, 2, 3, and 4 to match the conditions in column 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's run it. Here now I can just move the table out of the way and watch what happens to the column numbers as I start choosing things. So here with the distractor, column number 4 highlights. Again, the green cells for evaluate, get the doctor, get the kit, those are always going to match true. And if I go ahead and now do it in the appropriate order, we get to see the feedback for number 1. I can uncheck things, and you can see that the table responds accordingly. I'm going to create a push button and show you how to delay the feedback from the answer table. I'll even label it Judge Now, which is actually the in on the table we're going to use. Wiring an out from button pressed up to the table. At the very bottom of the table, you'll see something that looks like a judge's gavel. If you mouse over it, it should highlight and say Judge Now. And of course, when we run it, there's going to be a big difference. Here I'll go ahead and do some steps, do things in the wrong order. And if you notice at the top, our column number didn't highlight. When I hit Judge Now, it does. So the table remembers the order in which your user has done the steps, but won't change the current column number until Judge Now is applied. And of course that can be by button press or any other type of trigger that you've created inside your application. I'm going to turn my arena here for the feedback to hide on run true. So when we start running our application, the user doesn't get to see it. But when they press Judge Now, then the arena will appear. And we could even add a little bit of a fade to it. Maybe say a ½ second to show itself. And run it. Notice the feedback is gone. I'll do some steps. Doesn't really matter, I guess. What do I want to do? We could say hit the distractor. Column number 4 should highlight. Hit Judge Now. The arena shows, and of course it's already flipped to page number 4 because it matches that column condition up above. Hit Edit Reset, and we can try it again. Let's go ahead and evaluate the passenger, ask if there's a doctor on board, get the kit. So this is the appropriate condition. Column number 1 highlights. On Judge Now, the arena page flips, and the arena shows itself. So here we get delayed feedback with the order in which our user has done things. Now we want to make it possible for our user here to replay the application. I'm going to select all of the user input devices, all the checkboxes in the Judge Now, as well as the other arena, and make the whole thing an arena. If you missed that step, you may want to pause it and jump back. Essentially, I selected everything on the stage and then used the drop-down menu to make everything an arena. Inside the feedback message, I'm going to add another button. We'll put this on all the pages, and I'm going to wire it up to reset the table, and we'll call it Try Again. I'm also going to wire it up to the main arena that now has all of our user input devices. Go to Do and wire it to Reset Properties. The arena itself and everything that's now contained in it will get reset, so all the check marks will become unchecked when I hit Try Again. Let's go ahead and select this push button, copy it, and then we can paste it on pages 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the feedback arena. It's also, of course, still wired to reset the table. So we get 2 for 1 here, resetting the table and resetting all the check marks. Hit our distractor, hit try again. You'll notice that the table at the top completely reset itself. The checkboxes have all gone back to unchecked. We can do the condition for column number 2, hit try again, and again, all the check marks become unchecked, our feedback disappears, the table resets, we can do it in the right order, and now we get all the steps highlighted in green because we've matched column condition number 1. This is a really fantastic way to allow people to do things over and over and over again. The last thing I'd like to show you is actually jump back to the very beginning here and take a look at our sample application. Running our application, we can see that essentially the same thing with our checkboxes is being performed. I hit the perform task. Here I'll do everything in the right order. Say finished. And this is just an arena that's popped up. Again, its arena page is showing that I did all the steps in the appropriate order. And I can close it. And everything gets reset. I can run it again. Here I get the distractor page. We can run it one more time. And here, just like everything in Zebra, I notice that I've got a misspelled word. And we can go ahead and just hide a few things here quick by selecting the arena and my little prevent click rectangle. Go in here and just change the text, just like that. Go ahead and save it, make sure that I get that all fed up, and I'm ready to go. So thanks very much for joining me for this short tutorial on creating an ordered question inside ZebraZapps. I hope you found it useful, and be sure to check out this application published inside the shops to refer back to. And good luck as you create your own advanced interactivity with answer tables inside ZebraZapps.